Welcome to this week's episode of Coffee with a Journalist, brought to you by OnePitch. Are you curious how OnePitch can help you find relevant journalists to pitch, including some of the guests on this podcast? Head to our website at onepitch.co to learn more. Our guest on today's episode of Coffee with the Journalist is Catherine Perloff from Adweek. As a reporter, Catherine covers ad tech, social media platforms, and their influence. During the episode, Catherine elaborates on the nuances regarding exclusives, how you can approach her with trend stories that she hasn't covered yet, why she values talking with sources regularly, and more. Let's hear from Catherine now.
Welcome, everyone. This is Coffee with a Journalist. I'm Beck Bamberger, and hopefully you're here because you want to hear from a reporter about what they like about pitches and not like about publicists, and actually do like about publicists and this wild world of media that they all exist in. And I'm very happy to have with us today, the platform's reporter from Adweek. Catherine Perloff is here, and she's ready to spill the beans. Catherine, welcome.
Hi, it's nice to be here.
Yes. Okay. You're coming live from New York, right? Tell us, how is it going? Are you excited for fall? Let's talk about that. It's August right now.
Yeah, it's a beautiful day here now. It's like a perfect day right now. And it's just a little bit crispy, which is nice.
I'm coming there next month. I cannot wait. So anytime I get the New Yorkers reporters here, I'm like, tell me more. This is so good.
This is the best time of year in New York, I think.
It is. I will be there soon. Okay, Catherine, first, I usually like to start off with having people give an overview of their outlet just in case people are not as familiar. So what would you say encompasses Adweek? And then we can get to your focus.
Yeah, so Adweek is a publication for the marketing community. It is sort of a one-stop source of news for specifically more advertising, but marketing writ large. And we cover sort of like the agency world and sort of moves among agencies and different agencies, sort of workplace practices or culture stuff. We also cover brand marketing, so CMOs and different sort of strategies like rebrands, that kind of thing. And then I'm sure, like, am I getting all the sections? We cover.
Yeah, I know, there's so many.
I know we cover like TV, and then my team, I'm on the media team. So we cover sort of media and tech from the lens of the marketer and sometimes publishers as well. And sort of how are these tools best used for them? So yeah, I mean, I think overall it is a publication for advertisers meant to serve the advertising community and covering a lot of different facets within that.
Okay. And if you take a look, I mean, you were covering things programmatic, on Meta, on Salon, on podcasting. I was looking at mattress firms, branded podcast, for example. I mean,
yeah, that was a little bit not my normal wheelhouse.
Yes, I was going to say, oh gosh, how SEO agencies are adapting to a world without traditional search, all these things, Home Depot. It's quite the treasure trove that you're covering. So I highly encourage everyone to take a look.
I cover like a wide gamut. So I basically cover all of digital advertising writ large with a focus on platforms. So like Facebook, Instagram, Google, YouTube, TikTok, all, and how advertisers are using those and what they're spending their media budgets on is sort of the big question I'm always trying to answer. And then also programmatic advertising. So advertising on the open web and what's going on with ad tech and what's going on with privacy and tracking and how advertisers find audiences on the open web is another big focus of mine.
So then, given the wide array you cover, I can only imagine your pitches are also as wild and comprehensive. How's your inbox?
Yeah, I mean, I do get a lot of emails, and I think it's hard. It is tough because I feel like, a lot of emails I get most of them I think are not like totally irrelevant. There, of course, that happens, but it's just that, yeah, I do cover a lot of things. Like I sometimes cover the creator economy. Like I sometimes will cover a podcast. And so sometimes I get these things that are not as just not my norm. Like, maybe like it's something I would cover every couple months, but not my like normal day to day. So that's tough. And then also there's a lot of stuff that's just happening, but not necessarily newsworthy or interesting, of course. But yeah, it is. I do cover a wide gamut. So I think that someone might be Googling around on their topic and see that I write on it, but I might not necessarily be the best person, though. I mean, sometimes I'm always interested, but yeah.
You're always interested. Okay, so what do you do then with all the pitches you receive? Do you have a process on how you manage the craziness?
Yeah, I feel like honestly, like I kind of like once a week, I'll like actually really read through my inbox because I feel like most like if I get an email that immediately catches my eye or like is from someone I've been emailing, whatever, like I read it all, of course, but I get a lot of obviously pitches and other emails where it's like, I don't know what this is. So I'll just kind of like not look at it. But then once a week, I will go through my inbox and just try to read or skim everything I've gotten that week just to make sure I didn't miss anything. So I will like look at pitches that I've gotten and stuff. And if I think it's interesting that something I miss, I'll respond. Or if a lot of times people reach out because like they want me to talk to someone. And if I think the person they're talking to is interesting, I'll make like I have a list of potential sources and I might put that name in my list. And then just when I'm looking later for someone to talk to on that topic, I might respond and it could be like way
Ah.
later. So that can be helpful. Or if there's like a topic they brought up that maybe I'm like, oh, maybe this will be interesting later. I might make a note of it. Or I'll respond, or I'll just decide this isn't interesting and like won't respond. Usually yes, that's kind of how I manage it.
Okay, but now the thing that just caught my ear was once a week you look at your inbox? No, you like scan it and you like sit.
Well, I mean, I look at it like every hour really, but like
Yeah,
once a
I was
week
gonna
I do
say.
like a more thorough read through of did I miss any email? Because like I'm looking every hour and seeing what emails I get. A lot of pitches I'll be like, oh, this isn't like that important for right now kind of thing. But if it
Yeah.
catches, I mean, there's certain emails I'll get and they could be from a PR person and I'll be like, oh, this is interesting and I'll read it immediately. Yeah, I do kind of the weekly sweep is more so just the ones that I kind of dismiss on first glance. Should I give them a second look kind of thing?
Got it. Oh, you're the first person I've heard that does a weekly sweep type of thing.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's
Fascinating.
hard to know what's the most effective strategy.
I know.
Yeah.
Seriously. No one has the end all be all for sure. So by all means, totally get it. Okay. Is there a subject line type that gets your attention?
I feel like, I mean, definitely if it's like exclusive, because I mean, just because it's exclusive doesn't mean we'll cover it, of course, because it's like, is this something that's interesting to us? But if I'm going to cover something based on something that a company is putting out, like it does usually have to be exclusive to us. So that's definitely something that will catch my eye. If it is specifically about like a topic that I've written about recently, I guess it's sometimes though, like not, I mean, I'll look at it more often though. Sometimes, a lot of times it can just be like, you wrote about this. Do you want to talk to this other person? And it's like, well, I already wrote about it. So probably not.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like if it's on a topic that I've been covering in the past couple weeks, that makes me more likely to read it if that's in the subject line. If it says exclusive, or if it's from a company that I cover a lot, or if it's like a big company that like I haven't covered a lot, but is like a pretty big company. Maybe it's like a brand that wants me to like speak with their CMO. It's hard to know when to take a meeting that is just kind of a meeting without a specific purpose. But if it's a pretty big brand that I find interesting, I'm more likely to be like, okay, like I'll meet with the person, that kind of thing.
Okay. So you'll meet with the person if it's a big brand.
Or one of the roster of companies I cover. Maybe it's an ad tech. Like
Yes.
I am very interested in, like I cover Google and Facebook and
Yes.
certain ad tech firms like the Trade Desk or whatever. So like if it's an email from them, I'll definitely read it because it doesn't mean I'll like do anything about it, but I'll read it because they're kind of in my roster of companies that I keep tabs on.
Okay. This is good. Are there any that get you the, I can't, no. Do you ever delete based off just the subject line?
Honestly, I'm not a big deleter, which
Really?
I just
Okay.
it's a little bit of a mess. I mean, I'm not like a zero inbox person. I'll just be like, read it. Okay, this is irrelevant. Like it stays in my inbox, but I don't delete. I don't know. But I mean, things that I just ignore. I mean, obviously, if it has nothing to do with like what I write about, like sometimes people want me to cover a creator who has a business. And it's like I do cover the creator economy. I cover how advertisers approach the creator economy and systemic issues between creators and platforms. But like, I don't care about most random creators. Or like if it's like a random startup that's in the ad tech or marketing space, generally that's just not my bailiwick to cover. So, and then also annoying, yeah, is I've just written an article and then they're like, "Have you seen this?" And it's like, "Yes, I just wrote
Yeah. Yes. I just wrote it. Yes.
Yeah.
Jesus. Yeah. That's a consistent pet peeve. And I don't know why people do that. You just wrote this piece. You're not doing another piece.
Yeah.
It has to add tremendously more for you to warrant another piece or a continuation of the story. So
Today's interview will continue after this brief message brought to you by OnePitch. Are you curious to learn about the unique ways OnePitch helps brands engage with the right journalists? Head to onepitch.co and create your own custom media list in 5 minutes or less. Now back to today's episode.
Yeah. Okay. How about the elements of a pitch where you're like, that is a good pitch. It was teed up to me perfectly. What's that perfect pitch look like?
Yeah, I mean, I think it can be sort of one. I guess it depends on like, what you mean by pitch. If it's like, because some emails from publicists are just like talking to someone versus like this is actually an article. But I think that something like I wrote about Intuit launching a ad network or, becoming sort of like a commerce media network. I mean, that story, I sort of had been in touch with the people involved beforehand. So that was kind of how I found out about it. But, something like that, where it's like a brand is doing something really interesting. That's obviously, I also read about the MTA offering programmatic advertising. Like that's a company that's doing something really interesting and it's a new product or it's just legitimately like a new, interesting product. I feel like a lot of times I get pitches that are two ad tech firms integrating with each other, which is probably not going to rise to the level where
Yeah.
we write about it. And I get why they'd reach out to me because it's like not irrelevant, but it's just not interesting. But I think, yeah, like the perfect pitch is a company that is just doing something like very new and interesting and it isn't like their normal business line and they're like expanding in some way. Also, I mean, every now and then a publicist will come to me with a kind of like an actual trend that hasn't been covered before. I wrote this whole big story about how brands have trouble knowing who creators' audiences are, and that makes it hard
Yeah.
to value the creator and do attribution for a creator-focused campaign, that kind of thing. And that, I mean, partly started because like a publicist reached out to me with one of their clients talking about how they approach this problem. And it ended up being like a ton more reporting. But if you come with a legitimately new like trend that hasn't been reported before, which is kind of rare, honestly. But if a publicist flags it to me, it's just like if anyone flagged it to me, it is interesting. So it, something that is like on my beat that is a unique trend that hasn't covered before, just like if a freelancer was pitching this, it would be interesting kind of thing. Or it's like a company doing something legitimately interesting. And then I think the third thing is, I mean, my bread and butter sources are media buyers. I think they're like my best kind of sources. And those are the people who work at agency or work for brands who they're actually making the decisions about which media to buy. And if you just reach out and say like, hey, this buyer wants to talk to you, that will get my attention already. I might not talk to the buyer, but I'll definitely note them in my list for the future. But then if like they are experiencing any sort of problem, like any sort of challenge, that I might talk to them. And I mean, maybe I won't write about it, but it might get me to talk to them, just any sort of problem they're having with media buying that's interesting to me. So I mean, not all publicists represent media buyers and
Exactly. That's a niche thing, but okay. But you are, of course, in New York City, which is arguably the capital of such. So,
yes.
question about relationship building. How do you like to build relationships with publicists, if at all?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there are good publicists that kind of understand what I'm writing and do have a number of clients that would be relevant. And so I feel like I don't know if I'd always have to meet with them one-on-one, though sometimes that can be helpful if like they really do have a good roster of I feel like, yeah, once I know a publicist has a lot of people who might be good for me to speak with, then it's like, okay, maybe it's worth building a stronger relationship. Just I think off the bat, I wouldn't necessarily meet with one because I don't know if their clients are going to be useful. And then it's just like, is this going to be worth my time? So yeah, and I think some publicists like work for a lot of ad tech firms and they might think that I'd want to talk to everyone, all their clients. Ad tech firms are usually they're a good source, but they're not necessarily the best source because sometimes they're trying to like sometimes they're really useful and they're experts, but sometimes they're just kind of trying to sell their company. So that's kind of the risk. So yeah, I think if a publicist has shown like I've ended up just like running into them a lot because the people I'm contacting they work with or they've ended up coming up with lots of good people, then it's like, okay, let's maybe sidebar with this publicist. But I think off the bat, maybe not. Or if they work for a company that is a company I want to be in touch with, then it would be more valuable to meet with them, one on one.
Okay. Fascinating. Do you ever want exclusives?
Yeah.
Okay. Tell us a little bit more. What's the how? What's the how?
Yeah, I mean, again, as I said earlier, I think if a company is doing something interesting, we want to be the one to exclusively tell it. Now, it has to be a big enough company, like just because often for us to write about it, but we don't want to be, if the story is being shared with a million other outlets or even a couple other outlets, it makes us not likely to cover it. So if it's sort of like a medium-sized company doing an interesting thing, definitely should be exclusive. And definitely if it's not exclusive, we're not going to cover it. Now I know the risk is you offer an exclusive and maybe you've offered it and then like, what if I take a little bit longer to like respond? And then so I try to get back to people in a reasonable time frame if I'm not going to take it, because at the end of the day, like exclusive is sort of almost the minimum to cover something. And if it's just covering their idea. Now, I mean, someone could reach out about something and I could think it's interesting. And then that could come into like a larger story, the fact that this company is doing it in like a larger trend story. But if I'm going to just like do a story that is about a company, minimum kind of has to be exclusive usually. I think the tricky part comes with like if a company is doing research because not sometimes that research is interesting and maybe we want to cover it. And certainly we'd want to cover it exclusively because usually the research is a launching off point to talk about the larger issue that the research is studying. And so so that research has to be sort of good enough that it feels like it could be sort of the nut graph for a story because sometimes it feels like research is a little bit just self-serving to the company
Yeah, exactly.
that we want to be careful of not promoting if it doesn't really feel legitimate.
Yes, exactly. Okay, Catherine, I have a little rapid fire question section. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Here we go. Video or phone interview?
Honestly, sometimes I like phone better, especially if it's about something that is a little bit more sensitive or private or secret, because I feel like people feel a little more on the spot with a video interview, though like sometimes a video interview can be nice to build a relationship too. But I feel like sometimes I a little bit prefer the phone, but either is fine.
Okay, fine. Bullet points or paragraphs in the pitch?
I feel like just 2 paragraphs saying what you're talking about, honestly. If it has to be spelled out in bullet points, it's almost like too long.
Okay, too long in bullet points. Interesting. Well, the next one, short or long pitches? I would say short.
Yeah, exactly. Like just like tell me what's going on. Don't say so little that it's okay. Like, I don't believe that you're talking about something real. You don't want to be like, oh, I have this great piece of news. Email me back to learn more. And it's like, okay, I probably just won't. But yeah, like enough where I get what's going on, but don't give me all this information where I'm searching through the email to like figure out what the point is.
Yes. Okay. Images attached or Dropbox zip file?
I mean, images aren't that important for the kind of reporting I do. It's because I'm not recovering campaigns or, maybe if there's a tech feature, I guess, yeah, maybe making it like attached because an image is usually not that relevant. But if it is relevant, like I'm not going to do that much work to find it.
Okay. Not going to do the work. Email or XDM? Used to be Twitter DM.
No, definitely an email.
Okay, email. Email's where it's at.
Yeah, I mean, I DM my sources to talk with them, and I think it can be a good informal way to talk to people. But like, if you're gonna send like a formal pitch, if it's over Twitter,
No.
I probably am going to think it's not legit.
Yeah. Okay. One follow-up or multiple?
I mean, I don't know. If you're
I take
following,
that as one. I
yeah,
take
well,
that
I
as
guess
a
if you're
one.
following
One
up,
and done.
it's probably not a great sign. Though honestly, sometimes people have followed up twice and like I have seen it more so. So it's tough for me to say. Definitely not more than two though, because that's just gets to be a bit annoying. But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Very good. Okay. Press release or media kit?
Probably press release. Again, just like getting to the point easier.
Okay. Direct or creative subject lines?
Direct.
Okay. Any particular time for a pitch?
I guess it depends. I mean, I feel like the day that I'm most like going through my inbox is Thursday because I feel like I'm less likely to publish a story for Friday because like people read less stories on Friday. Doesn't mean
Yeah,
sometimes I do
exactly.
publish a story for Friday, but Thursday can kind of be my more like chill day. And like I guess Monday morning doesn't hurt, I think, because
Okay.
like I am looking more on Monday morning. And then Tuesday, Wednesday, like I'm really in my reporting and like doing my stuff. So I'm more likely to miss stuff. So maybe beginning and end of the week, I guess.
Okay. Any last words, comments, things to promote, Catherine, of yours that we could just shout out and use?
I mean, follow me on LinkedIn and Twitter.
Obviously. Yes.
I've been posting more of my stories on LinkedIn recently because Twitter or X has been a little more random. So I'm always looking to chat with people. It is how I don't know anything unless I talk to people at the end of the day. And publicists can be a great conduit for getting to know people. I mean, not every person they think I should talk to, I think I should talk to, of course, but there's definitely a role for sure.
Okay. Good to know. Well, Catherine, we know where to find you. You're in New York City.
Yes.
It's great. Come and visit. It's the fall. It's crispy. I love it.
Yeah, it was great to chat with you. It is
Thank
nice.
you,
It's also
Catherine.
like fun to be able to talk about my process because I'm just on my laptop and I'm like, this is how it
The
happens.
weekly sweep, though. The weekly sweep. Don't be in the sweep. Be in the first reply. I think that's the key message here.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, thank you, Catherine. Thank you for being here. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. It's great chatting with you.
Thanks for listening to this week's Coffee with the Journalist episode featuring Catherine Perloff from Adweek. For more exclusive insights about the journalists on this podcast, subscribe to our weekly podcast newsletter at onepitch.co/podcast. We'll see you next week with even more insights about the journalists you want to learn more about. Until then, start great stories.